Record. Okay, well, good. Was it afternoon or morning? I think it's afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Right, we're going to continue the Master's story. I think last time we left off, I'd found Taekwondo. I'd invited Master Ogborn along. He'd watched a session of stretching, which he was horrified about. And we were sort of taking it from there, really. So over to you, Master O.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to sort of stay on that vein, really, Master G, because I then remember that I started in July and I found the classes really hard. Obviously, I'd grown from being a normal person to 6'8" in no time. I was about 16, 17 at the time, and started doing the classes. I found them extremely hard and painful on my body, but I did enjoy it. I loved it. The fact that, you know, we were learning how to defend ourselves. It was a combat martial art. It was very strict. My dad was an old soldier, and he liked the fact that, you know, I was going to a house of discipline. But I think the first grading was interesting because my first grading, you were taking your second grading, and I took my first grading, and I was over the moon because I got a distinction. And I think you got one as well. We did mention it last time. I think it was between me and you who got the grading award. And I think you still got that grading today, haven't you?
Yeah, I've still got that grading award. Yeah, gradings were funny in those days because they started late and they finished extremely late. I remember sort of starting at 6 o'clock in the evening, and sometimes we didn't finish till 12 o'clock at midnight or 1 o'clock. And plus the fact Mastery occasionally came in late to the gradings as well, sometimes 2 hours late. So it was a war of attrition just getting there and staying up.
And this was the UKTA?
Yeah, this was in the UKTA days, and it was strange because, you know, these days we have like a grading syllabus. In those days, nobody knew what was going to happen because we weren't told what we were asked to do. We just prepare for everything and anything, and then sometimes something really strange would be asked, and we go, "Well, we've never done that, but we just have to do it anyway, or try it." So gradings were very, very different in those days. But yeah, it was a good grading. I remember we both had a really good grading. We were sort of high as a kite after that. Once we did the grading, obviously we didn't realise that we'd passed at that time. We had to wait a bit longer, but it was just getting through. It was great.
Yeah. And then obviously we were so excited by it all. You know, walking there and walking back took us, you know, a good half an hour, and we used to have a bit of fun on the way home. We'd have a treat on a Friday night, might have a takeaway. But then there was talk of this summer camp that was coming up.
Oh, yes. Summer camp.
Wow. So I think you picked me up after a cricket match one Saturday evening.
Yeah, that's right. In my Austin 1100 car, which I was driving then.
And it was in West Wales.
It was, Tresaith, a place called Tresaith, which seemed like the other side of the country at the time.
Well, it was. I think from memory, it took 4 or 5 hours to get there. I've been there recently, actually. My friend's got a property in Pembroke, like a holiday home, and I got there from Bristol in 2.5 hours. I distinctly remember it took us 5 hours because we did it a few years. We did about 3 or 4 years there, didn't we?
Yeah, and it was
sort of the first time. What happened on the first time?
Well, my car broke down. My car broke down. I heard this. We heard this noise coming from underneath the car, and it was like a little tapping noise. And by the time we got over the suspension bridge and got the other side, clear the other side of Wales, the noise just every 10 miles just got louder and louder and louder. And eventually, I don't know. We were actually, we didn't realise it. We were quite close to where we were supposed to be camping, and something just snapped, and the car just ground to a halt. And so the last sort of few miles of the journey to camp, I actually got towed into camp by a local local garage or whatever. And then
a black belt from another group came to meet us, didn't he?
That's right. Yeah. So my car ended up in the field in the field that we were camping in, and I was thinking, right, I'm gonna have to fix this now to get home. But that was another story. I mean, we'll come back, but going to the end of the week, I did actually fix it. I had to walk miles and miles to a garage to actually get a universal joint which was sort of 2 U-bolts, and one of those had snapped on my car. And I did actually manage to fix it on the last day of the camp and actually get back home. But yeah.
Yeah, scary.
Anyway,
Yeah, so we arrived there in the dark. We put the tent up in the dark. And then we thought we were going to go on a martial arts holiday. And little did we know.
It was. I think we thought after the first session, we thought we joined the army. It was.
Well, the first morning we woke up,
wasn't
we
it?
were rudely awakened, weren't we?
Yeah.
And I think the sun was just coming up. I think, what's going on here? Now, we did like camping because we were in the Scouts together.
Yeah.
So we adored camping. We loved it. But nothing prepared us for what was going to happen that week.
It was absolutely brutal, wasn't it? Because, like I said, we'd only been training a short time anyway. And, so physically, yeah, we got a bit stronger and so on. And I was sort of fairly fit anyway. I was into running and fitness anyway. But that was very, very brutal at the time. And it was like trying to break us.
Yeah, it was like they were literally trying to break us. The instructor was there to break us down. But one of the things that I remember was we were talking about in the last video about how we used to like going running. And I used to run around Sanders Park, which was quite a big park with you. And you'd lap me 4 times. And I was really trying to go as hard as I could. And you were an athlete at the time and you enjoyed running. And then I think the first morning, rudely awakened, we did a hard class session on the field in the cold. And then the sun came up, it got really hot. And then after about an hour and a half, they then decided to run everybody down to the beach. And of course, now you got, super duper Nike trainers with air cushioned soles. We had to run down barefooted in bare feet.
Yeah, we did, didn't we? Which it's surprising that it's right, well, we were training without trainers anyway, as you did. And we just thought, oh, this is what you got to do. This is what you got to do in martial arts, because, looking at all those martial arts films where all the students are taking punishment and having to carry water over their shoulders or whatever, I thought, well, this is what we got to do. So yeah, we did actually the beach barefoot.
Yeah, so we ran down to the beach and trained for another hour down there. And I remember it wasn't the same day, but another day where we did this. I remember I used to run. The reason I remember it was because I thought it was quite clever, because I ran down to the beach and it was a steep hill on the way down to Scythe Beach.
Yeah, it was.
And I remember there was double yellow lines. So I used to run on the double yellow lines because there are no stones. And otherwise you'd be running on gravel, on tarmac gravel. So I would run on the double yellow lines all the way down. Obviously there was an odd stone in there. I just couldn't believe how bad it was. But again, a couple of days later, after doing a few days, I could hardly move. But I remember we went down to the beach, somebody upset the instructor. So he made us run back to the campsite and then run to the other beach, which is another 2-3 miles in the other direction, called Aberporth Beach. Couldn't believe it. It was like a concentration camp. And I was thinking, what am I doing here?
Well, the worst thing about it is it's a bit like the current coronavirus epidemic, because you didn't know when it was going to end. It was like you started a session, you weren't allowed to wear watches, and you thought there was no time schedule at all. So you thought, well, how long is this going to go on for? And within an hour, your body was aching. You were thinking, I just want it to stop now.
So this went on all week, and there was a couple of days where it poured down with rain, and you're trying to warm up. As soon as you warm up, you're cold. You're cold again. I did enjoy it for the fact that I was learning this martial art, but I remember during the days thinking this is brutal, and just basically during the day just chilled out. But another memory for me was I was a white belt at the time, and because the weather was so bad, one evening we had to train in a local hall.
Yes, yeah.
And we were asked to spar. And I didn't have a Scooby-Doo. I didn't have a clue what I didn't know about having a guard. I think all I'd been taught was middle inner forearm block, reverse punch, and front kick, and rising block. And all of a sudden they're saying, right, we're going to spar now. And I was sparring this guy who picked us up, if you remember, who was about the same height as me at the time, about 6'2", 6'4". And they lined us all up. And I fought this guy, and I was terrified. And I remember he he was moving around. I just wandered around following him, and all of a sudden he just kicked me straight in the groin. And I just ended up in a heap on the floor, in agony. And I remember, I was so upset. My nose was running. I was upset. My eyes were running. Oh, and I remember everyone picked me up. I couldn't actually walk because I was holding my groin. But this guy hit me full contact in the groin and dropped me. He was very proud of the fact.
Yeah.
I remember I went to the toilet. Somebody carried me in there and just left me there. I think you came in to see if I was all right. And I remember feeling sick, and I was, sort of almost regurgitating. I thought, what was that? Do you remember this?
Well, I remember it because I actually had my own my own start memories of it as well, because I can't remember if it was before you sparred that guy. It was a tall guy. I remember his name was called Vince, actually, that I sparred.
That's right.
And I remember lining up Charity Kinnear, and I was sort of like moving, thinking, don't want to get hit by this guy. And all of a sudden, he brings a turning kick to the side of my face, my ear.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
Hit me in the ear. And that
ear... because your ear was ringing for a couple of days, wasn't it?
It rang for a couple of days, and I thought, of course, he must have done some damage, because it wasn't getting any better. It was just ringing. And that was our first introduction into...
So do you think this is why... I remember listening to my parents saying, I was never hard in my day. And you say, yeah, you don't know how tough you had it. But when I look back to that and we discussed those days, I mean, there was nowhere to get any food. It wasn't as if you could, go to a local, fish and chip shop, or if you could go to local. Well, there were shops. There's all canned food. There's no McDonald's.
Can I stop you there, because I don't know if you remember. Do you remember what we ate all week?
No.
We ate a pot noodle. It was the first time we got out pot noodles, and there was one flavour.
Yeah.
And we ate it all week. And
I've never ate it since. I hate this stuff. I remember that because pot noodle was like the new thing out.
Yeah.
So we had that. It was awful. I mean, I don't know why we can. I remember coming back off this camp and thinking, I never want to do it again. In fact, the first class back, I thought I'd be super fit. And I remember I was still stiff. So we came back on the Saturday, and the training night was a Tuesday. And I remember I was still stiff from that camp. And I was a young guy. So normally, if I played cricket, you might be stiff the next day, or a game of football. But it was like the following Tuesday, I was still stiff as a board.
Yeah. The funny thing about that was, I remember the first day of the pot noodles, I thought, actually, this is not bad. It's not bad stuff. By day 3, I couldn't stomach it. I just couldn't look at it. You sort of pour hot water on it, and the smell just made me ill.
Yeah. I also remember as well, that now brought this back to me. I remember we would get a can of baked beans, and we'd share it and pour a few baked beans in yours and a bit in mine, just to bulk it up a bit, so that we could have a bit more food to eat.
Yeah, and it was strange. The other thing about camping in those days was everything was heavy, even the canvas with those poles, and my tiny car just about managed to carry everything. It was, and everything seemed to be bulky and big. It was all a really big inconvenience, to be honest. And even the facilities when we got there, I mean, it was a field that had a toilet, and I don't even think it had a shower.
No, it didn't.
No, it didn't have a shower, if I remember rightly. So we're in the middle of this field in Wales, West Wales, with just basic amenities. A
water pipe, standpipe, and a toilet.
Yeah, and as you say, when we got back, I mean, it was almost like, wow, did that actually happen? Was it a dream? Or was it real?
And there must have been about, I'm guessing, but I remember there was a maximum of 30 people, not more than that.
I don't even think there was 20, to be honest. I think
it was real hardcore training. It was brutal.
It was one. It's like I said. I think the difference. I've been recently talking about old school sparring, but I think about old school training. You had to love it to carry on, because you couldn't put yourself through that if you didn't like it.
For me, it set me up that I thought I'd gone to learn martial arts, gone to Taekwondo to learn how to defend myself. And I just got assaulted by somebody. I thought this was bizarre. But I remember thinking, I'm never going to let that happen to me. I'm going to work really hard So next time it happens, then I'll be able to defend myself. You know, I just thought it was par for the score, but I just felt that motivated me to think, right, nobody's ever going to do that to me again. And that did motivate me, because I was getting a bit of stick at the time because of my height. Because I don't know, 6'4", and I was probably half the weight I am now. So I was painfully skinny. And I can see it in my own children now, how slim they are. But I was 6 foot plus, and people would remark about my height. And I used to think, I've got to do something about this. And I go on camp, and then that happened. I think, oh my gosh. But it set me up until this day, where, you know, that in the back of my mind, I thought, nobody's going to do that to me again.
Well, it's interesting, really, because I know that you were really, really conscious of your height, being tall. And I was actually quite conscious of being short, because I was a couple of inches shorter than the average sort of guy for my age at that time. And I was actually really skinny as well. So I didn't weigh very much. So everybody was sort of bigger and, you know, seemed to be stronger. So that thing about the self-defense and having a bit of confidence I think was massive for both of us. You know, and when we saw Taekwondo and we started doing it, we thought, wow, this is going to turn us into like superhuman people if we keep doing this. So I think that was part of the joy of actually doing it, to think, right, you know, we're really toughening our bodies here, and, you know, we're putting ourselves through it. At the time, some of the times it was horrible. When you look back, you think, wow, you know, that really prepared us for a lot of stuff to come. You know, going into situations which I'm sure we'll talk about soon. You know, fighting people with reputations and, you know, people that were just horrible people, actually, sometimes.
Yeah, and in our,
really prepared us.
where we lived as well, you know, there's a lot of tough guys out there, weren't there? And they were usually doormen, and they did other martial arts, rival martial arts.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we might have to wrap it up in a moment, because, you know, and then we'll prepare and come back for our next master's story. You know, really hope that this is great, by the way. It's really bringing back some fantastic memories.
Yeah.
Those early days, and I'm hoping people that will enjoy it. You know, feel free to put any comments on this, and you know, we'll try and get back to you. But
yeah, we can answer some questions as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the key thing for me is that I'm really missing martial arts, and I'm missing the comradeship and the family atmosphere that P.U.M.A's got. Desperately missing it at the moment, and it's so sad what's going on. But I'm sure that with these type of video blogs we're making, that it will keep us involved with people and interacting with people as well. Otherwise, you know, going stir crazy. I don't know about you.
Yeah, you know, anybody out there, you know, stay connected to us. You know, drop us a message and so on, and you know, tell us what you think about these videos as well, if it's interesting to you. You know, we've got quite a few more to come. We've got probably another 30 odd years to talk about, but you know, hopefully people will enjoy it. And again, just want to say thanks to you, Master O. You know, great to chat. We'll do our next episode very soon. So you just want to say thanks to everybody out there, and hopefully we'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah. Taekwon.
Take care.